Hi, and welcome to another Tips for Sociology. Today we are going to be looking at the work of renowned sociologist Stanley Cohen. Now, Stan Cohen was from South Africa. He was born in Johannesburg in 1942, and he goes on to complete his PhD at the London School of Economics, where his principal focus is going to be juvenile delinquency. He has, in 2009, received the award for outstanding achievement from the British Society of Criminology, so he's a huge figure when it comes to sociology. He will clearly be a good example of a study that can span a lot of different topics, from crime and deviance, youth culture, media. So Stan Cohen will come up in lots and lots of different areas. So Cohen is principally known as an interactionist writer, which means he's going to be looking at the impact of labeling from the perspective of the media. And he has a particularly famous study written in 1972, which is a book called Folk Devils and Moral Panics. This is a crucial book in sociology, and it will definitely be one that I assume that you've looked at in your lessons or that you may have heard about before. In his study, he looks at the effect of the media and the labels that they give out on the levels of deviancy between two British subcultures, the mods and the rockers.
So the mods and the rockers are obviously very different. You have the mods with their scooters and their suits and their parkas, and you've got the rockers with their motorcycles and the leathers. And this is all kicked off by a slow news day and a fight between these two groups, or two members of these groups, in Clacton. There might have only been 40 or 50 of these young people involved in a little bit of disturbance and a small amount of disorder.
After the first fight, we see the events at Brighton take shape and are somewhat worse in terms of the number of arrests and kind of sentences that were received by these young people in these two different subcultures. This event, according to Cohen, would never have taken place if it wasn't for the media exaggerating and blowing out of proportion the first few little scuffles that they saw in Clacton. In this way, what the media have done is created a moral panic with some young people as folk devils, which has led to deviancy amplification. Quite literally, the deviance and the criminality has been made worse through the process of labelling and the situation that has been created by the print media. There are lots of different examples of this kind of deviancy amplification taking place, and you can see that in Stuart Hall's study of police in the crisis, or Jock Young's study of drug takers in North London, where he focuses on the hippies. Like with lots of studies and theories, there are problems with Stan Cohen's work. And principally, one of the main problems now is that it is quite dated. This has taken place in the 70s, and the mods and the rockers are long gone. Lots of people would make the argument that nowadays we don't receive moral panics in the same way that we did back then, because there have been so many that perhaps we've become desensitized to them. It also doesn't explain why some people from the mods and the rockers are going to take part in this and some people aren't. There will have definitely been mods and rockers in that area who didn't go and have a skirmish on Brighton Beach. So why did some kind of adopt and accept the label of a folk devil and others not? Finally, I suppose, it's difficult nowadays when we're looking at youth cultures to see them exist in the same way. And lots of postmodernists might make the argument that, well, we don't have youth subcultures in the same way that we did in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And we're left with neo-tribes, which are just loose groups which come and go and disappear from one weekend to the next. Ravers being a good example of that. As always, I've popped a few references on the next slide just to show you where I'm getting my information. And that way you can look it up yourself. Stan Cohen, as I said, is a really, really important example of a brilliant study of moral panics. And you've got to make sure when you're in your exam that you're using the kind of language that he does in there. Moral panics, folk devils, deviancy amplification, both in your GCSE and your A levels. That's what the examiner will be looking for, and making them aware and making sure you're aware of what those concepts really, really mean. Okay, as always, if you've got any questions, then post them in the comments. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know if you want any videos on any other specific concepts or writers or sociological ideas. Thanks.